the bass catching techniques, the secrets of the Bassmaster Tournament Trail Pros, right here, coming next on TNN Outdoors. Today, the Bassmasters ride into the Great Southwest, the land of enchantment, New Mexico, Elephant Butte Reservoir, and the town with the unique name of Truth or Consequences. As the locals call it, T or C, so named in a 1950 promotion by the Ralph Edwards popular radio show. When the program offered to stage an extravaganza in a community willing to change its name, the residents of Hot Springs, New Mexico voted to do it.
In a way, tournament bass fishing has a parallel to the former game show. You either put together a true bass catching pattern, find the fish, or suffer the sad consequences. Generally, April is the best time to plan a trip to Elephant Butte. But as these 200 bass pros learn, the spring season can be a tricky time when a front blows across the New Mexico plains. Our Bassmasters cameras are going to show you how to beat the consequences. You'll learn the pros' winning ways, how to adjust to the changing conditions, what tactics to try, and why downsizing a lure presentation can make a difference. And you'll discover a special tournament rig for tough times, the Tsunekichi. The dropper weight technique is used in Japan, where anglers fish crowded waters to catch pressured fish. Roughly translated, it means lucky rig. Stay tuned. The Bassmasters will be right back with a Bassmaster New Mexico Invitational from Elephant Butte Reservoir.
Where in the world is the best-kept bass fishing secret? In today's World Wide Web of bassin chat rooms, there are few unknown, untapped waters. But perhaps New Mexico's 35,000-acre Elephant Butte Reservoir is one of the more unique destinations. Located over 4,000 feet up on a plateau in the southwest corner of the state, the lake is framed by nature, a desolate, rugged backdrop. When this Rio Grande River impoundment was built between 1912 and 1916, it was the biggest man-made lake in the country. Named after an outcropping of lava rock that resembles an ancient mastodon, Elephant Butte offers a twin challenge to Bassmasters, both largemouth and smallmouth bass.
From the bass tournament angler's viewpoint, the Butte fishes more like two lakes. The dividing point, the Narrows, where the lake changes character from a typical clearwater desert lake to conditions with murky water, standing timber rather than flooded mesquite bushes, and in the spring, the lake's prime big bass area. But any tournament game plan must weigh the pluses against the negatives. On the positive side, the upper end warms faster in the spring. Bass will move shallow. The Lava Rocks area is a key early spawning spot. However, there are no secret spots. This is a well-known community hole.
Recent cold fronts put the spring fling off schedule. Water temperature is only in the low 50s. The big bite is slow. Jig and pig presentation, flippin' may be the ticket. And you need a ticket, a reservation to fish here. The upper lake fish is smaller when the wind blows, forcing tournament boaters to crowd into any semi-protected cove or windbreak. Winds gusting to over 30 miles an hour make boat control and working a lure properly almost impossible. Fishing pressure, the weather, and fighting the crowd will make it tougher for a winning pattern to develop in the upper lake.
A basic tournament fishing truth is that local anglers seldom win on their home waters. They suffer the consequences of fishing too many familiar spots, the places they used to catch bass. Dennis Hoy, a local pro and lure manufacturer, may be the exception to the rule. About the Butte, Dennis is weather-wise. He's only minutes from the weigh-in site, working a small protected cove on the east side of the lake.
The fish are in here. They spawn in here. It's an excellent place. It's not a secret place. Everybody knows about it. But it's one of the first places on the south end of the lake that the fish will come into. And we've had some warm weather, and they've been up in here before cutoff. And we've had these cold fronts come through. The thing that makes it tough fishing, I think, is that cold front. You got to slow down. And I want to just yank that jerk bait and rip it through there. And I have to really force myself to slow down. I catch a fish, and your heart gets to pumping, and I want to yank on that thing, but I slow it down, and they'll hit it on the stop or when it's just sitting still. I'm throwing a bomber. It's a orange belly, black back, but it's a clear sided, but it's got some type of a mylar looking stuff inside that really sparkles. You get a little morning breeze like this and it'll come from the east, southeast. And in about an hour it'll change and we'll get a little wind from the south and it'll be blowing in here, and I think it'll help fishing quite a bit. And patience is the name of the game then. You just have to, it's about 5 acres. You just go around in a circle. And you'll find during the day that there'll be a stretch that'll produce more fish than someplace else, and you just go over it until you pressure them too much, and you go someplace else and just leave them alone for a while. These little fish will usually get in these mesquite bushes like you got hooked up on, and usually you'd come through here with a worm and just fish the mesquite bushes, and that's where you catch them, but they seem to be more scattered. The more I talk, the more I get to catch fish. That'll slow that thing down a little bit.
Daily fishing partners in Bassmaster tournaments are selected at random by a computer draw. And the draw on day 2 makes for an interesting pairing. Dennis Hoy, whose Chaparral Bait Company makes the soft plastic Devil's Claw and Bambino worms, is fishing with Japanese angler SEIJI KATO, who also happens to be president of Lucky Craft Lures based in Irvine, California. Both are fishing jerkbaits, but KATO's pointer lure differs from Hoy's Bomber Long A. It's a size smaller, and use of internal weights in the Lucky Craft design causes the bait to wobble and vibrate when the retrieve is stopped. Another bite for Dennis Hoy on the Long A, but he's thinking about making a lure change. This bass appears shy of the 14-inch tournament size limit.
Not gonna go. The last fish I caught was short. The fish he's been catching a little bit better than what I have. And that fish was more aggressive after his bait. It made a flash at it and missed it, and it came back and took it in the very next cast. And his bait, if you look at it, is smaller than mine. We have no wind today, and the fish seem to be more scattered than they were yesterday. My bait may be a little bit too big. I'm just downsizing a little bit and see if the smaller bait makes a difference. Over on that side over there, I had a fish come up and look at mine and swim away and didn't take it. And I couldn't make him come back.
Dennis's switch to the TD Minnow, a Team Daiwa jerkbait, pays off. KATO, a former Daiwa Tackle Company employee, crafted the design for that bait, too. For sure, SEIJI KATO is a crafty angler. Fishing behind Hoy, he's changed tactics. SEIJI calls this his every-time lucky rig, a technique for tough times. It's similar to the Tournament Pro's Carolina Sinker rig for soft plastic lures, but there's a difference. Coming up next, we'll show you how to fish it and rig it. Right now, it's time for Bass Mail, where you ask the pros questions. Tim O'Connor of Smyrna, Georgia writes, what's the best rod length, lures, and how long a leader line do you use with a Carolina rig? Here's Bassmaster Pro Mike Worm with the answer.
Hey, Tim, I'm glad you asked that question. Everyone asked me that. We need to discuss it. What I like to use for Carolina rigging is a 7-foot rod, 6.5 to 7 foot. 7 foot is always better. You need the length, throw the leaders. I also use a nice high-speed retrieve reel like this Quantum here. For my weight, I usually use a 3/4 ounce like this, rigged up with a bead and a swivel. You asked about the leader length. The leader length is very important. Normally I'll use about this long, say 2.5 to 3 feet. but once in a while I'll shorten it down to here. The biggest thing to remember about your leader length is the longer the leader, the slower the lure will move. The shorter the leader, the quicker the lure will move as you move the sinker across the bottom. That's usually the same thing I use in the tournaments as well as fishing for anything else. Now, as far as lures I like to use, I have a selection here. I like to use lizards. I like to use these centipedes right here. I like to use plastic worms on occasion. But you always need a good supply of sinkers, hooks, beads, and swivels to go along with your Carolina rigging. And always use a nice quality line for your leader. Super Tough green strand is the one I use always. I always use a green line for my leader. I always use a Super Tough strand. It's a great line and works great. But I'm glad you asked the question, and good luck with your Carolina fishing. Use it anytime and everywhere.
If you have a question for the Bassmaster pros, write Bass Mail, 8600 Coppertown Lane, Box 101, Dallas, Texas, 75243. We may answer your question on the air.
Competing in a bass tournament is just not about casting for cash. Sure, there's a big payday on the line, but there's the added bonus of learning how to catch more bass. Anglers are paired each day with a different angler, and the partners can benefit from each other's know-how. Here's an example.
Dennis Hoy, a 6-year veteran on Elephant Butte Reservoir, knows this lake and ranks second in the standings after the first day with a 5 bass limit of 11 pounds, 15 ounces. So naturally, he and SEIJI KATO, paired this second day, elect to go to Hoy's fishing location. The primary pattern that's been producing is a minnow-shaped lure worked slowly with a jerk pause presentation over flooded mesquite bushes in a 3 to 7 foot deep cove. Water temperature is in the low 50s. But with steady fishing pressure and today's bright sunny conditions, the bite goes sour. That's when SEIJI KATO digs into his bag of tricks and comes up with a solution for tough times, the Sunikichi rig, or commonly translated, the Every Time Lucky rig. After SEIJI puts 2 keepers in the live well, partner Dennis Hoy picks up his Carolina rig worm. But just slowly dragging a lure across the bottom is not the answer. A Carolina rig with a heavy weight and leader line is tied above the lure. KATO's is just the opposite. A 1/4 ounce bell sinker is knotted on the end of the line. A light wire hook is tied directly to the line 6 inches above the weight. A plastic grub or tube type lure is rigged weedless on the hook. With the sinker on the bottom, barely shaking the rod causes the lure to twitch and vibrate. Dennis Hoy rigged his pearl-colored bambino worm on the hook Texas style and is impressed with the action.
Yes, sir. All right. Yes, sir. Give me 5 on that. Yes, sir. Are you ready? 6 pounds, 9 ounces. Boom, there's your leader. Ho, 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 ho. Now, hold them up. Let's show off these fish. We got 4 bass. I'll hold a little one here. Little largemouth. Hold that up now, Pee-wee. Let's show. This is a leader's weight for today.
So heading into the final round, local favorite Dennis Hoy leads with 18 pounds, 8 ounces and a slim 15-ounce margin over his Shama Monroe of San Pablo, California. New Mexico's Jay Salisbury ranks 3rd, followed by first-day leader Warren Wyman of California, who blanked today. He had 12 pounds, 9 ounces yesterday. SEIJI KATO, with a 5 bass limit and 10 pounds, 3 ounces, jumps from nowhere to 13th place. What a difference a good partner makes. Speaking of partner pairings, the final round puts number 1 and number 2, Dennis Hoy and Ish Monroe, going rod to rod in the same boat. Certainly a fateful twist in the computer pairing process.
Well, you got to be careful that you don't fight each other so hard that you keep each other from catching fish, and somebody sneaks in behind and we're left out in the cold.
Yeah, I mean, in a way I was kind of like happy and kind of like a little disappointed. In a way I was happy because I'm fishing with a guy. I mean, this is his home lake and he's got some morning fish going. Most of the fish I've been getting, I've been catching anywhere from about 10:30 on. And like he said, I mean, as long as we don't beat each other up. Oh, it's bush.
Was it bush?
Yeah.
Here's one. Get in that boat.
Good job.
The name of the game in bass fishing is adjusting. When conditions change, the successful pro adjusts his lure presentation. Dennis Hoy has switched from a bigger jerkbait downsized to the smaller lure, the pointer, by Lucky Craft. Here's why.
The first day I was using a Bomber Long A in a clear brown color. We had overcast skies and had lots of wind and had a chop on the water. And so it seemed like that darker jerkbait was working better. Yesterday I fished with KATO, a Japanese guy, and he was throwing a smaller bait in a shad colored, and it had the high bright skies. And
Learn the bass catching techniques, the secrets of the Bassmaster Tournament Trail Pros, right here, coming next on TNN Outdoors. Today, the Bassmasters ride into the great Southwest, the land of enchantment, New Mexico, Elephant Butte Reservoir, and the town with the unique name of Truth or Consequences. As the locals call it, T.R.C., so named in a 1950 promotion by the Ralph Edwards popular radio show. When the program offered to stage an extravaganza in a community willing to change its name, the residents of Hot Springs, New Mexico voted to do it.
In a way, tournament bass fishing has a parallel to the former game show. You either put together a true bass catching pattern, find the fish, or suffer the sad consequences. Generally, April is the best time to plan a trip to Elephant Butte. But as these 200 bass pros learn, the spring season can be a tricky time when a front blows across the New Mexico plains. Our Bassmasters cameras are going to show you how to beat the consequences. You'll learn the pros' winning ways, how to adjust to the changing conditions, what tactics to try, and why downsizing a lure presentation can make a difference. And you'll discover a special tournament rig for tough times, the Tsunekichi. The dropper weight technique
Learn the bass catching techniques, the secrets of the Bassmaster Tournament Trail Pros, right here, coming next on TNN Outdoors. Today, the Bassmasters ride into the great Southwest, the land of enchantment, New Mexico, Elephant Butte Reservoir, and the town with the unique name of Truth or Consequences. As the locals call it, T.R.C., so named in a 1950 promotion by the Ralph Edwards popular radio show. When the program offered to stage an extravaganza in a community willing to change its name, the residents of Hot Springs, New Mexico voted to do it.
In a way, tournament bass fishing has a parallel to the former game show. You either put together a true
A $27,000 payday. California's Rich IANNOLO is the runner-up with 24 pounds and Big Bass Honors, 9 pounds, 15 ounces, worth $22,600. Fred Ward of Arizona finishes third, followed by Ish Monroe and Nevada's Jack Gadlich. Right now, it's time for the Pros Pointer, the tournament champion's winning tip, brought to you by Wrangler Rugged Wear, geared for the outdoors.
My backup pattern was what they call a drop bait, and this is where the weight is below the hook. The hook is tied right on the line, and you tie it in such a manner that you can see that the hook stands straight out, and it's a real small hook. The bait I was using when the fish quit hitting the jerkbait and I'd have to go to some type of finesse was my little devil's claw. This is what we call the Bambino, and the bigger one is what we call the devil's claw. But I was using the smaller one, and I would just Texas rig it just like this and bury the hook. I bring the hook all the way out the other side and lay it flat. Now with the hook because it stands out to the side when it's in the water and the weight is below it, the bait stands out to the side, and then you just shake the rod tip, and it makes the bait quiver. And then you'd pick it up and pull it to the next spot and let it sit, and then you just shake it again. But you can see that the bait is suspended up above the weight, and it is out to the side, and just by shaking the rod, it makes the bait quiver. And this was my second, and this is where, when the bite got real tough on the jerk bait and it would stop, I'd go back with this drop bait method and pick up 2 or 3 extra fish, and if that was the difference, I think, in what helped me win the tournament.